So this happened a few years ago during an online old-school Essential game. For the most part, it was fine. The players were fine. There were a few great moments I'm still quite proud of. I eventually left for reasons entirely unrelated to the following. I mostly just stopped vibing with the way the campaign was going and wasn't having fun. At around the same time, I discovered that one of my favorite YouTube artists had started streaming. I was really excited and doing that thing when you discover something new and you can't stop gushing about it to anyone and everyone. I have no idea what you're talking about. I never gush about anything new I discover. Ever! I'm sorry you guys are inflicted by my interests. Well, during my hyperfixation, one session before the DM arrived, I was describing how amazing her music is, how great the streams are, and how wonderful the community is, all that. And then, out of nowhere, one of the players interrupts me with this gem of a question. Does she have big boobs? This hero has saved millions of people, slain dragons with nothing but a single sword. I've been so like, how big are her boobs? Oh, I don't have any boobs. I'm a guy. Like, we don't really. I just went silent, stunned. None of the players had given any indication that they would do that. Another player then broke the silence with a laughing, "It's an important question, you know. I just gave a non-answer and moved on, completely deflated." Thankfully, I hadn't yet said the streamer's name to them, which is good. People like that are very unwelcome in her community. Look, there's a line between compliments and being frickin' weird. And I think more of y'all need to find that line. Is this game ruining? No. Is it welcome? Also no! A few years back, my friend got super into D&D, listening to podcasts or reading the rule book and stuff, and they got me into it too. But I'm shy as heck, so I never would have even thought of playing before. But I did want to try, so my friend invited me to the campaign they wanted to DM, and I made a character. I'm a writer. I already have characters and backstories on my mind 24/7, so modifying one to fit wasn't hard. I went with an elfin cleric whose parents were from rival clans, and they ended up Romeo and Julieting themselves. Because of this, he has trauma! Yeah, who doesn't? The trauma is important for later. I joined the session, there's about 6 or 7 other people if I recall, and I think all of us were brand new. Most people had picked personalities ranging from the good or neutral side of things, but one guy made a skeleton who I think was chaotic evil. I remember thinking that he might not fit in with the rest of the party, but it would be cool if my DM friend played it right. Anyway, the adventure starts. The party comes across a merchant in the road. He's in the road? He's in it? Wow, that sounds painful. The party discussed if we should rob this merchant who's stuck in the road. This is fine with my character, so I don't really say much of anything. But when they start making plans to murder him, I speak up that my character will not be happy about that. A subtle warning of future consequences because, you know, he's the party's cleric. Probably not the best thing to get on his bad side. But I might not have been clear enough about this. While the DM made sure I was heard, I might not have been clear enough myself. Some characters heeded the warning, or just weren't interested in killing the merchant, so they didn't participate. But the ones that did, I wrote down my notes. That included the skeleton and 2 or 3 others. The following encounter was a decently tough fight. Characters began to take damage, and the skeleton ended up really low. So when my turn came around, I ignored healing him and chose to heal someone who hadn't murdered the merchant, who was low, but not as low. There was some backlash. I explained that my character has a lot of trauma around death and murder, and he will not support characters who murder intelligent creatures who are non-hostile, such as the merchant. It wasn't anything personal, really, and I did give a warning, though I wasn't explicit. If you do this, you will not be healed. Instead, I did a more, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Also, wouldn't you just kill the guy? Like, healing undead kills them. I am Erangel, Death Knight of Acheris, and nothing can stop me and my undead hero. Oh god, Death Knight, let me come to your aid. I can heal your wounds. Thank you. Your friendship makes my cold heart a little warm. Be at ease, my friend. Okay, now you should feel a little bit better. Hey, Death Knight, oh. He's not breathing. Oh, God, okay. Okay, I'm just gonna go. My bad, dude! Anywho, the guy playing the skeleton was not happy, and neither was his IRL girlfriend. Her character had a healing spell and helped him, and we all survived the encounter. I suppose they both complained to the DM after the game. My friend took my side because I was just playing my character in character, but they both quit. I did decide after that to have my character forgive his remaining companions for the next fight because I thought it would be too far to be permanent about this whole thing, though my character likely would have needed more time than just one fight to forgive lethal murder, but it also was the first encounter. I thought the other players deserved leeway. Anyway, we only did a few more sessions before the DM had to stop for personal reasons, and we just never went back. And we never got to roleplay any interesting scenarios that might have come from the consequences of this character trait becoming more apparent. So I worry now that this limitation may have been too controlling. I thought it might be fun in the future to have to roleplay other characters having to distract, like with the romance subplot we were cooking up for my character, or convince mine if they want to do murder in the future, or to prepare for the consequences of disregarding his feelings. But maybe I was the only one who thought this would be fun, and it was simply too restrictive when I imagine a lot of new players just want to screw around without many consequences. So, am I the a-hole? Am I the whore in the story? Well, yeah. Drumroll, please. Not the a-hole! Look, you established early on that this isn't a blatantly evil campaign, this is a campaign with evil people present, and this is the exact reason why that can be so friggin' awkward so often, and why, generally speaking, DMs don't recommend mixing evil and good parties. It can be weird for your character motivation, like, why are you hanging out with these literal murderers? Now, not healing somebody because they recently murdered someone, I understand that. I think it would have been a lot worse if this guy died because of it, but he didn't. At the end of the day, your, 1d4 plus 2 healing word probably wouldn't have done anything for him. You also gave them a warning, and while you didn't directly say, I won't heal you if you do this, you did give them a pretty distinct warning of don't do this or there'll be consequences. I mean, I would listen to that. My only wrinkle is this is a group of all new players and they don't really understand the taboos of D&D. A lot of them are going to play this game like Skyrim with no consequences. But tutorializing that aspect of the game is not on you. Especially since, I mean, come on, you're a new player too. God, I feel like my DM's world building is turning into a straight up mess. It's been a pain to navigate, but it doesn't need to be like this. If only there was a way for her to just keep stuff more organized. Thank God she found WorldAnvil. This week's videos are sponsored by WorldAnvil. If somehow you haven't heard of them, WorldAnvil is an incredible world-building website for any writer or game master looking to take their world building to the next level. If you guys are unaware, I have been working on getting all of my world lore written out, and after a few months I realized that I exceeded the potential of Google Docs, but WorldAnvil came in clutch. I can create wiki-style articles from all of the aspects of my world, like characters or locations. I can link them all inside of a map, and create links between the articles for easy navigation. Oh, and if you want to show off some of your skills, right now WorldAnvil is running the Institutions of Learning competition, where they're inviting any world builder to show off their magical academies, or assassin training schools, for a chance to win tons of cool prizes, many of which come from Hero Forge, like minis or free subscriptions. Hey, if you guys are interested, then you can head down into the description down below, or to the pinned comment, or use the promo code on screen so that you can get WorldAnvil at 51% off on an annual subscription. Seriously, guys, it's a deal you can't miss out on. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us. Thank you so much to WorldAnvil for sponsoring today's video, and without further ado, let's get back to the D&D advice. I was playing as a paladin. Okay, no, I wasn't. Just trying to give Crispy a jump scare for another problem player paladin trope he's been getting lately. Y'all don't need to write like I'm not in the room. I'm right here! I'm always here. I'm always with you. So some people I knew over Discord made their own tabletop role-playing game system based on the Persona series. It's made to be a split between social interactions, character drama, with dungeon crawling, like the JRPG is known for. It was made by the DM and player 1, who acts both as a party member as well as like a rules collaborator and schedule keeper. We've been going for over a year now, and I've had a blast playing with the others. Sure, there's some scuffed moments, like how I'm meant to be a glass cannon and ended up accidentally becoming OP to a broken amount, but it's like playing a live update game or a beta test where the DM and player 1 can fix things as they arise. You know, as a longtime Destiny fan, I don't think releasing the game and getting out of beta fixes that problem. I'm gonna be real with you. Sorry, I was having flashbacks. Anyway, the real horror story started when I had the urge to try running a game myself, with DM's approval. He gave me some first level notes and music playlists and asked my roommate to see if any of his online friends would be interested. My own social circle online is limited, thanks to my night shift. My idea was to set up a sort of B-plot to go alongside the game I was in. Same setting, same town, but not interacting so my players could have their own agenda. Plus, my roommate, we managed to get 4 players together. Session 0 was had, where we saved a Crispy while going over how to build a character sheet and the synopsis of a setting. Though frankly, if you abandon Session 0 on a custom game that no one's ever played before, I think I would have to kill 3 Crispies! I told them I was going to host 4 individual Session 1s, where each player would get to see how the social and combat phases worked, as well as let them have in-character moments to awaken their powers. Mostly because my Dungeon Master did the same thing, helps to get an understanding while letting the inner drama student out. Things went well. I hosted the first Session 1, which the player enjoyed. I told my roommate that I'd schedule his next session while the other 2 players continued plotting backstory details, and then nothing. That was it. I had so much motivation for this game, and seemingly out of nowhere, I became overwhelmed. I couldn't focus on doing what I needed to run the game. I couldn't get myself to make time, and even when I sat down to work on stuff, my brain would blue screen. Maybe I was overwhelmed by my job, or that pesky undiagnosed ADHD, or I didn't have a player 1 to manage scheduling for me, or maybe I'm just lazy. All I know is I didn't have enough spoons to handle it. But after a month of radio silence from me, I finally told my players I was sadly putting the campaign on hiatus, which I felt especially bad for since they had character concepts that were legitimately impressive. The real disappointing part is this wasn't even my first time trying to DM. The first was a spur-of-the-moment offer in a separate server for a 5th edition game in D&D. There was no plans or goals, and I quickly got overwhelmed that I dropped the offer the next day. I thought I had to take a slower approach. I wanted to set up a one-on-one game with a close friend, planning on exploring a fantasy setting I've worked on since high school, but that quickly became too much for me as well. I love telling stories. I've lived in my own head since I was a kid, being inspired by games I've played like Legend of Zelda and Final Fantasy, and I wanted to make my own tales like those, but sadly, DMing probably isn't for me. I'm still in the original Persona game, it's easy and fun for me to play, but that's probably because all I do is play a shy girl who shoots eldritch blasts, instead of setting up dozens of NPCs and dungeon floor layouts with puzzles. At least there's a new respect for my own DM. If there's anything I learned, it's that DMing might not be for everyone, and that's okay. That's what trial and error is for. Thanks for reading. Yeah, of course. And I completely understand where you're coming from. I'm tempted to say, oh, you could run a simpler, smaller scale game, and that might be the solution for you. There are plenty of systems that are probably easier to play than D&D or this Persona game that you're playing. Critical Role has been putting out some decent rules-light systems, or Powered by the Apocalypse has been around for a long time, simpler D6 games that are easier to get into. But with all that being said, you're right. Some people are just not into DMing, and that is completely okay. Yeah, I could give you all these recommendations to make it easier for you, but if you don't want to do it, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with writing a book or creating some self-indulgent fanfiction instead. I mean, for a lot of people, that's gonna be more fun. I think DMing is one of the coolest things in the world, but it's okay that not everyone feels the same way. One of my former DMs, who doesn't go to the same college as me anymore, was holding a game set in the Warhammer universe. Only 2 people were familiar with the Warhammer universe, but anyone with experience with D&D was encouraged to apply, so I got in. I was forewarned this campaign was unlike traditional D&D. It had a much more gritty story to it, with more punishing combat, so we were encouraged to think of it in a more challenging setting. The DM expected us to die, so he gave us a life system If we ever died, he would use it to instantly revive our character to its previous state with full hit points, not counting missing limbs. So what if your head gets cut off? Well, then what? This is going to be very important later. The players in the story are a Wood Elven Cleric, a Wood Elven Druid, a Human Wizard, and 2 Human Paladins. We'll call them Paladin 4 and 5 respectively in the story. One particular session that we played around with at the beginning of the campaign was a Human Mage finding a cursed object and pocketing the item for later. When he tried to use it, the DM forced him to attack any of us players who were already low on HP from a previous fight that we had to run away from. There was already tension in the air due to magic being like a forbidden and taboo subject in this world, and the NPCs around, mostly soldiers, were pissed about the whole thing and attempted to break up the fight. Human Wizard has almost no HP now and lost a life point due to the whole thing. Paladin 5 had some opinions on the whole thing, and he and the Druid got into an argument too. It was pretty insightful to get more lore about the world and how other people interpret things, but the main problem was that it was coming from us the players, not the DM themselves. Paladin 5 started to attack Druid, and due to Druid's low AC and Paladin's weapon proficiency, he was almost beaten to a pulp, and we, the players, had to stop it since the DM was siding with the Paladin by having an NPC aid the Paladin and try to kill the Druid. Wait, the players had to stop it? Like PvP in real life? Okay, you guys gotta chill out, okay? Come on, it's just a game. Dude, this is freaking ridiculous. Can your character just chill out? It's just what my character would do. Just relax. You say that one more time, huh? Oh, it's just what my character. Oh, I'll do these hands! Ha! Went down like a chump. One hit and you're. Hey, I think you killed him. Oh god! Oh god! Wait, no! Don't go anywhere! Don't! I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Druid actually did survive this, thankfully, with a quick healing from my character, but that didn't do much. We didn't even get a short rest after the whole thing. We were immediately moved on to the next session. Druid was pretty pissed the entire session after that point. Honestly, it's a mystery as to why. Who knows why he was upset? The next mission we were sent on was to explore a network of dungeons. Me and Druid were a guide, since we could see in the dark. As we walked, we were ambushed by lizards. One lizard in particular was a brawler type with large gauntlets. We never knew the true extent of it, since we only fought it a couple times at a distance with some lucky rolls from Wizard and me. Paladin 4 decided to fend off the rest of them so we could escape. Paladin 4 had the highest AC out of everyone, 19, in case you were unaware. The lizard he was facing had a plus 16 to hit and had 4 attacks. Paladin 4 was beaten to a pulp in a matter of a few rounds and was forced to use a life point to even make it out of the way, which prompted the lizard to try and again attack him for an attack of opportunity, and he had to use a life point again. For the record, if you want to know how crazy plus 16 to hit is, an ancient blue dragon has plus 16 to hit and actually less attacks than its multi-attack. So what was this lizard? Godzilla? This next and final part was the last straw for me and Wizard. A secondary point our group had to travel through was a swamp at night, so only me and Druid could see anything, so we were the guides. The Wizard was attuned to this cursed object and was clearing away enemies pretty well, pretty quickly, before being caught by a giant amphibious creature with an axe. Wizard told us to go get reinforcements, so that's exactly what we did. Wizard was trying his best, but the enemy, plus 15 to hit him, and the DM rolled a critical hit against him as well in the matter of one turn. The Wizard instantly lost a leg, and their turn hadn't even started yet. By the time he was able to do anything, it was too late, and the DM forced him to use a life point before his turn even started. Wizard at this point was pissed off at the DM and was completely turned out of the campaign at this point, as was Paladin 4. All that was left of the original party was Druid, myself, and Paladin 5. The 3 of us got back, giving a memorial for Wizard and Paladin 4, only to be swiftly back on another mission. One of the Empire's ships was destroyed, and we had to collect everything that was there. The ship was overrun by undead and led by a vampire. And based on how this campaign is going, this dude is as powerful as frickin' Dracula. We were all split up across the boat, and I was picking off some zombies, doing the usual. I was aiming for the vampire under the assumption that the vampire was weak to radiant/light damage, so I hit him with a max level guiding bolt and rolled a crit against her. The damage? None. The DM ruled that the vampire could use a reaction to nullify damage from an attack, which was not established when Druid and Paladin 5 were attacking her. I was done. I mentally tapped out at that point and almost ran out of spell slots in the fight anyway. Combat in this game was presented to us as being challenging, not impossible to deal with, but challenging, with every time we played. We were all the DM's punching bags though, and had a TPK as the result. I learned that combat-heavy campaigns, or combat-heavy D&D in general, was not for me after this, and just left the campaign early. It sucked that not a lot of roleplay opportunities were present here because all of our characters were extremely interesting, and we all want to learn more about them in the future. I plan to scrap the character I played and use them in a different campaign in the future, so let's hope that opportunity arises. I hope you do get that opportunity, and in case you guys can't tell, this kind of thing pisses me off. Y'all know it, I say it all the time. I like challenging combats, la 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 la. But seriously, I do. I enjoy challenging combats in D&D and Draw Steel. They're great. But challenging should be fun, not impossible. Your players aren't a punching bag. They're supposed to be the heroes. You present them challenges so they feel heroic. If your players don't feel heroic, your challenging combats have failed. Now, I understand that sometimes there is a skill issue, but I mean, come on. Here the DM is just being shameless with their BS. DMs like this bleed players for a reason and give challenging D&D and challenging tabletop games a real bad name. I've seen so many people dismiss MCDM's Draw Steel because of its crunchier elements, and I think it's because of stories like this, DMs like this, who don't use the crunch to make the game challenging and heroic and fun. They use it to grab their own human punching bags. Frickin' lame. So I was in a campaign with 3 friends, one of which I'll call Annie. It was Pathfinder 1st edition. I built myself a character I shall lovingly refer to as Princess Barbarian, or PB for short. Her backstory is really important to the story. See, PB was the daughter of a nobleman and a former adventurer. Specifically, her mother was the second wife of the nobleman, and the kids from the first marriage really didn't like how much he doted on PB. Things got worse when rumors started to swirl that he planned to make PB his heir instead of her older sister. As a result, they upped their nasty bullying to a full-on assassination attempt that killed PB's mom and left her horribly scarred. God, don't you hate it when your bullies do that? Hey, guess what? What? You're up. No! Mom, you won't believe what Elise said. Mom? Elise! Don't worry, this is totally just for political reasons. It's like, not personal. What the fuck? Actually, I gave her a scarred drawback because I really wanted to integrate her backstory into her build. PB managed to escape the assassins due to her mother's dying intervention. PB refused to go back home, instead living in the forest off the skills her mother taught her, and fostering a need for revenge against her siblings, as she was sure they sent the assassins. She lived in the forest for 13 years until bandits drove her off, which was the reason for her joining up with the party in the first place. If you're curious, she was like 14 during the bandit attack, lived in the forest for 13 years, making her 27, but for 13 years she was away from humanity, so she was poorly socialized. Everything was fine before I revealed her backstory to the players. Originally, I kept her backstory secret, but once she got to know the party enough to trust them, she explained her quest for revenge. Most of the party took this well, and while they might not be willing to help her, they didn't mistrust her. Annie's character, though, deeply hated all nobility and rich folks in general. This was true of Annie, who immediately dismissed her entire backstory aside from used to be rich, and had her character start treating PB as a spoiled rich girl, which was kind of funny because PB was a ripped, borderline feral woman who very much fit the class of a barbarian. The Lily Orchard syndrome strikes again! Some of y'all need to learn what character development is, or get basic, literacy. That's a start. Except, this wasn't very fun, because Annie's character has strong personality and generally always managed to strong-arm the party into doing what she wanted. She also refused to let PB help with anything, and completely talked over her in conversations. It got to the point where we were really close to PvP, which would have ended poorly for Annie's squishy alchemist. Oh yeah, no dude, that lady is dead! I love my alchemist Amory, but I ain't beating a raging barbarian in a 1v1, okay? This would be fine if Annie didn't believe in the same things her character did, and it was getting really annoying. Whenever I tried to correct her, she would say I was playing an unrealistic character, and no rich girl would be like that. It's fantasy Annie. It doesn't have to be realistic. She also kept boiling my character's morality down to evil because she's rich, instead of being the result of years of trauma. Also, she's not even rich anymore. PB was not a good person, but I really wanted to have her become a better person as the story went on, as she came to feel more than just rage at her loss. The DM did try to step in, but you can guess it, Annie just said it's what her character would do, and the DM had no right trying to force her to like a character she didn't like. I didn't need her to like PB, I just wanted her to stop trying to make her into something she wasn't. The campaign fell apart since then, but I've never reused PB because I'm afraid she's going to get reduced down to just a spoiled rich girl again. Having my character flattened like that would just kill a lot of the love I have for her. Never play a game with Annie again, though. Yikes. Thanks for reading, love your channel, I hope you enjoyed this mess of a story. I did, and yeah, I play a lot of characters who are deeply flawed. Based on some polls, I know you guys love Yumi and Kalia, my problematic queens. Both of these characters are complex, and I have seen some people in the comments of their respective actual plays simplify them down to the most basic negative traits of their character. Kalia is a rich brat, and Yumi is a psycho liar. These things are rooted in some truth, but it is frustrating to see that. Now, for me, as a DM, those are NPCs. I can minimize their appearance if I really need to. I'd rather not, but it's possible. When you're playing a player character, I mean, if somebody has such little media literacy that they reduce your character down like this, I think it's reasonable to be annoyed at that, and take it to the DM. We love our characters, we love our NPCs, we love our player characters, and somebody doing this to a character in a way that's this corrosive and rude, it's not fun, especially since she was taking it out of game. Look, while I was reading PB's backstory, I thought she was freaking awesome. So you know what? Annie missed out. The rest of the party missed out, but that doesn't mean you have to. Take her into another game, man. I think you'd have a good time. Hey, that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, then you might enjoy my Solo D&D episode. It was a lot of fun. I played as two problematic ladies, so safe to say Annie probably wouldn't love it. But I think you might. It's linked in the cards. But before you go, please do leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, you can head down into the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment character development. So let me know at the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, then essence, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Farewell. Ugly. I haven't bullied someone in a while.